Hi and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Vincent Cojo and I am a principal consultant with Red Hat Software. I am passionate about open source, Linux, RHEL, and I also happen to like Veritas Infoscale. In this video, we'll be taking a large RHEL 7 system with Infoscale, Oracle databases, and upgrading it to RHEL 8.3 in a little over 1 hour. In this video, we'll be using LEAPP. LEAPP is a new tool which was released along with RHEL 8 for the specific purpose of upgrading between major RHEL versions. Also, much like enterprise environment, we will be using software distribution provided by Red Hat Satellite. More on this later. LEAPP is documented in the same area where you find the Red Hat Enterprise Linux distribution and docs. This is on the support portal from Red Hat. We won't be going through all of the steps, including the pre-flight steps that include the assessment, because it's outside of the scope of this demo, and I've already verified this for you. We'll be jumping right into the upgrade with Veritas Infoscale. Also, since we'll be using satellite, let me have a word about the content views and the activation keys and the various things that will be consumed in the course of this upgrade. My RHEL 7 servers are in a specific content view called RHEL 7 servers. My RHEL 8 servers are in another content view that's similar. In order to perform the LEAPP upgrade, I needed to do a few things on my satellite server. First, I needed to create a composite content view that includes both my RHEL 7 server's content view and a specific content view that I created for the purpose of this upgrade. This content view here, called CVEL 8.2, is a content view that includes RHEL 8.2 non-EUS, non-extended update support, software, and it is specific to the repos of the 8.2 version. Why is that so? The reason for this is that LEAPP will take any server running the latest RHEL 7 uh, software distribution, and the upgrade path is kind of specific. It is tested against going from 7.9 to 8.2 non-EUS and not 8.3 at the moment. So the only way to get to 8.3 in our demo is to start on RHEL 7, upgrade to 8.2 using LEAPP, and then resubscribe, switch content views, and then upgrade to 8.3, which is exactly what we're gonna do. Now, about this test VM. I'm doing this in a VM because it's going to be more convenient for the audience to see what's going on the console. This VM here is a very large VM that was created in 2014 under RHEL 7.2. This is the VM. It has 64 gigs of RAM, it has 8 vCPUs, and it has about over 100 terabytes of storage. This is the VM that will be upgrading to uh, 8.3 in the course of this demo. Also, one thing that I'd like to emphasize is that this VM, which was created for the specific purpose of testing out software with the same software environment as my bare metal servers, is could be considered a pet. It is not cattle as is common in the cloud. This is a complex VM that started its life under RHEL 7.2 and got upgraded to 7.3 and so forth until today 7.9. We are currently running right at 7.9, but the system started its life, excuse me, its life in 2014, in July of 2014 under RHEL 7.2. Also, it is running two Oracle databases. One is DB01 and the other one is DB02. And it's also executing a small virtual machine. All this come from all of this data is stored on Veritas Volume Manager and Veritas file system. Here is more detail about the configuration that we're using. So the very large data volume that's over 100 terabytes in size is just for the purpose of this demo. My databases don't have enough data in them, so they fit on a 64 gig file system. This is the system we'll be upgrading to 8.3. Also, Veritas cluster, which is part of Infoscale, is configured and manages everything that executes on this VM. We have a fully configured cluster, a single node cluster, uh, because I didn't have two nodes to demo the upgrade. But this single node cluster is gonna get upgraded in a little bit less than 2 hours. Also, here is the list of the resources that are configured. We see that the two Oracle databases, each with their IP address and their listener, are all are handled by Veritas Cluster. So is the guest virtual machine that we have here, and a few other things, including a mount point and, of course, the disk groups. Also, on this system, we have about 6,000 different RPMs, of which we have a little bit over 600 custom RPMs that are not signed or made by Red Hat. This is a very custom system. It started under 7.2 again. It is now running 7.9 and will be using this VM, which is a pet, to upgrade to RHEL 7.3, 8.3 in place. This virtual machine is currently subscribed to my satellite server, and it is in the other environment that is related to the RHEL 7 server's content view. So this environment is not sufficient to upgrade to RHEL 8 because obviously the RHEL 8 content has to come from somewhere. So in order to perform the upgrade and evaluate our pre-upgrade checklist, we will need to move this host to a different content view, the, the specific composite content view that I described earlier. So let's go to that content view for a minute. So this content view includes the RHEL 8, the RHEL 7 servers, and the specific 8.2 content view that I created for this very specific purpose. As you see, some of those content views have quite a few repositories. These are custom and also RHEL repositories with extras and lots of things. Still, LEAPP is going to be able to deal with that adequately and provide us with an upgrade path. So back to the VM. I created a few scripts that are extremely simple. All that they include is something about subscribing with the appropriate activation key. So those scripts, which are just a convenience, will allow me to switch content views and jump from one specific uh, content lifecycle environment to another in order to perform the upgrade. Now that we have everything ready, we have the LEAPP tool which is ready. It is the latest updates. Also, we have in this directory LEAPP files, we have a list of PES events. It's a JSON that is downloadable and that is installed as part of the upgrade before you do the pre-flight check. It will allow the system and allow LEAPP to figure if you need to fix something or if you need to remove some software or if you need to change some settings or if some settings will change while you do the upgrade from 7 to 8. This file is described in the LEAPP documentation and the URL to perform the installation of this little file that is not packaged as an RPM file. Everything is described in the documentation. So let's go to our host. Our host is named RHEL's RH7X64. It's a virtual machine and it is currently with some subscriptions, and we see here that we are in the RHEL 7 servers content view. As I said before, we cannot use that content view to perform the upgrade. We'll have to switch content views. So we'll do that right now, but first let's have a reboot to verify that everything is fine. System is up. It's here. All right, perfect. So let's stop the cluster. This will take a few moments as the databases are shut down and the file systems unmounted. Here in another window, we can actually see what's going on. All of the file systems have been unmounted and oh, that was quick. Takes disk list. The disk group is deported, so everything is ready. Let's do a clean reboot in order to verify that everything comes back up properly under 7.9. This will allow us to treat any difference in behavior as a regression from a migration. So let's look at the VM that is here. A little bit, a word about the content views. Much like enterprise environment, the content views that I'm using for my own purpose, the RHEL 7 servers and the RHEL 8 servers content view. Those content views include quite a bit of YUM content. They have some extra repositories like native virtualization, self-storage tools, Ansible engine. So those are complex content views. And this is a pet VM. And this is why I wanted to do this demo. Even though we typically have a very heavily customized system, we will be, thanks to LEAPP, able to upgrade it in place with uh, to RHEL 8.3. So system is up again. Let's log back in. System is up. The cluster is not up yet, but it should come up pretty quickly. Oh, cluster is up already. And so we'll see the cluster start, the nested guest that is running on this system, and also the Oracle databases with their listeners. This is thanks to the Infoscale agents that know how to start and verify and monitor properly on Oracle databases. Oh, and also this host is running Storage Foundation cluster file system, not just Veritas cluster. It was called the SFCFSHA product back in the time when it was called Storage Foundation. This host now runs Infoscale Enterprise uh, with the cluster file system option. This is why you have so many ports in GAP. So let's see. Our service group is online and all of the file systems are mounted. Oracle is up and so is the guest VM. We are ready to evaluate the ability of a host to get upgraded. In order to start the LEAPP process, I need to switch content views. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to switch to the composite content view that I showed earlier. The system is now switching content views and we will be able to verify this very shortly. Let's go back to our hosts. So RHEL 7x64. See, it did switch content views. It is now in the CCV, the composite content view that I created earlier. This is also reflected in information that is provided by the subscription manager on the host itself. See. Okay, we're good to start. This system started its life under RHEL 7.2. So it has one of the bugs that are known and documented. So I need to apply a specific environment variable before I can run the leap command. So I'm going to do that right now. This helps with systems that were installed before RHEL 7.4 uh, and that have the XFS file system bug that was present from 7.2 to 7.3. So we're just going to do a leap pre-upgrade. The pre-upgrade check is going to be able to tell you if you are meeting the requirements or if anything is missing. In order to do this with Infoscale, before we run the pre-upgrade, I'm going to stop the cluster. So we'll be stopping the cluster right now. And also, I'll be taking a copy of some of the Infoscale configuration files. The reason for this is that Veritas no longer appears to provide a script to upgrade uh, the operating system of a host in place, pretty much like in the Solaris days when we could save the configuration and jump from Solaris 8 to Solaris 9, for example, and then restore the configuration. So this is what we're gonna do here on our own. I created a small script here that will back up the VCS configuration, the sysconfig configuration related to VCS, the UIDs from the cluster, and all the config files in order for us to restore it later. So we'll be doing this script now. Okay, here we have our backup. It's not big. So let's do the leap pre-upgrade at this time. Please bear with me and my typos. Thank you. So leap pre-upgrade. The pre-upgrade stage is where it verifies that you've got all of the requirements and that you are ready to upgrade to RHEL 8, the next major version, upwards from 7.9. This will run for about a minute, and afterwards it will provide you with a nice message that's either red, fail, or green, pass. And if it's when it's green, you're good to perform the upgrade and reboot. So as I said before, this RHEL 7 system that will be upgrading is running the same RPMs as my bare metal hypervisors, my RHEL 7 hypervisors. This is so for the specific purpose of being able to test out stuff in a VM with the same software stack as my bare metal hosts. This VM is pretty similar to what you would call a pre-production system or a quality insurance system. It is running the same software stack. This is why we have an NVIDIA uh, warning message here, because we have the NVIDIA uh, RPMs that are included on this VM, even though the VM itself doesn't have an NVIDIA adapter, of course, because I'm not giving it any GPU through PCI pass-through. We're only deploying the same software stack in this VM. So it's very convenient for me on a daily basis. If I want to test something first, I can do it in my VM that runs the identical same software stack instead of doing the same stuff on my bare metal hosts. So as you see, Leap is a little bit verbose, but as long as it doesn't abort, then you're good. It's checking a lot of things, including things that you might not be even aware of, like SAP. This VM is running Infoscale and Oracle databases. It's not running SAP. But Leap is checking for that anyway. So we'll just wait until Leap exits and gives us the result of the pre-upgrade check. So as you see, it is correctly tapping into the RHEL 8 repos and downloading some stuff to prepare a minimal staging environment in order to perform the upgrade. So we'll have to wait a few more minutes before we can actually get the command line back. Here, Leap is evaluating the RPM dependency trees and checking if we have all of the required RPMs and all of the required repos in order to be able to upgrade our system. So the Leap pre-upgrade step completed. It completed with a warning that's in red. It's in red because we hit one inhibitor. This inhibitor says it has missing required answers in the answer file. So this one is actually pretty simple. We have to go into the answer file and check what answers are missing. So we have an alt select check that says, hey, we have this SSD with fingerprint with AIMK or OMD. I have no idea what it is, but probably because I'm not using it. So I'm just going to uncomment confirm equals true. And the same holds true for this one. I have no idea either what it is. PAM PCS 11 module check. Okay, fine. Okay, well, we'll proceed anyway and we'll fix the stuff afterwards if it comes back and bothers us in any kind of way. So we are now ready to do the Leap pre-upgrade thing once again. Also, please note that I may be pausing the video at some times when nothing is happening. The longest pause will be going through will be the actual upgrade from 7.9 to 8.2. While it is updating 9,000 RPMs, you probably have no interest in looking at each one of them specifically. So this is the longest part of the process and we'll jump right into it. While we wait for LEAPP to complete its pre-upgrade check, we'll be taking a look at what's going on the system. So there's a single process called LEAPP. It's doing its thing. Everything is turned off and we have some auto-mounted file systems, but that's about it. The system is at the moment almost completely idle. And we do have this important tarball here that includes all of the configuration file we will need to restore the configuration. So since Veritas doesn't provide us with a way to upgrade the major version of the operating system of our RHEL 7 host, we will have to actually install completely Infoscale before we jump into the upgrade. Then, when the upgrade is completed successfully, we'll be reinstalling Infoscale and restoring the configuration. So once we complete the pre-update check successfully, we'll be uninstalling Infoscale. Fear not, everything will stay on the disks and everything will get reimported and restored after we're done with the RHEL 8.2 upgrade. So let's look at what pre-upgrade is doing. It's almost finished, and in the other window we will be getting ready to uninstall Infoscale. Installer in that directory. So let's start the Infoscale installer and uninstall everything. It will not touch the data that we have. It will not touch the database files. It will not touch our file system. It will only uninstall the product, which we will reinstall after the upgrade. So LEAPP is currently finishing, and I don't have to wait for LEAPP to finish at the moment. I can start uninstalling storage foundation. Oh, sorry, I meant Infoscale. So I'm going to go ahead and uninstall product while LEAPP pre-upgrade finishes. Yes, I want to continue uninstalling. Do I really want to stop? Yes. Okay. LEAPP is finishing its pre-upgrade checks, and Veritas Infoscale is currently uninstalling. So let's see what the report comes back with. So as you see, this is a complex system with lots of RPMs, and still LEAPP is going to be able to take it from RHEL 7 to RHEL 8. Good. So here is the result. The result is green, and everything is ready for the upgrade. Okay, that's fine. So let's finish uninstalling Infoscale, and then we'll jump right into the update. I'm going to pause the video, the recording a little bit here so that you don't have to wait until all of the RPMs get installed. So we're still in the Veritas Infoscale Enterprise 742 uninstall program. After stopping all of the Veritas processes, the uninstaller is now removing all of the Infoscale RPMs. Still going on and almost finished. In the other window, we can see that the RPMs are getting installed. Slowly, but it should complete without any kind of issues. So let's summarize. We moved our host to a composite content views that the content view that includes RHEL 8 content. We saved the configuration of our cluster in a file that's in the root home directory. And we are now uninstalling Infoscale completely so that we can reinstall it later after moving to RHEL 8. No, I don't want to see the summary. Back to LEAPP, we're now going to do a LEAPP upgrade. The pre-upgrade check came back green, so we're good to go. LEAPP upgrade. The process will look very similar to the pre-upgrade check, but it actually does a little bit more. It prepares the kind of staging environment that will have the single task of taking the RHEL 8 content and upgrading the system. So if you run LEAPP upgrade successfully and then type reboot, then the next reboot is going to be into the upgrade process. This is not something that happens with the LEAPP pre-upgrade step. At this point, it's only a report. But as soon as you say, hey, I want to do a LEAPP upgrade, then the entire environment will be created in order to perform the upgrade. And we will be able to see that when the system reboots and we take a look at the grub menu. So let me pause that for a minute and come back when it finishes. here we can see that Leap is creating a directory where it will locate the minimal environment. It will allow the upgrade process to execute some RHEL 8 content in order to bootstrap the upgrade. We're almost finished. This looks a lot like the Leap pre-upgrade, except that this time it's gonna give us a different message. It's going to tell us, to give us instructions on how to proceed, to actually proceed with the update. So this is what we'll be doing next. As you can see, this actor uh, that is currently running is taking quite a little bit of time. This is because we have a lot of, we have close to 7,000 RPMs installed on this system. So this is gonna take longer than on systems where you have a more minimal environment, but it's going to proceed anyway, and it will let us know what the next steps are. At every stage in the process, Leap will be able to give you precise guidance about what to do next. And it doesn't look like it, but aside from the upgrade process, which is gonna take close to 1 hour, we are pretty much done. We we have managed to go through the pre-upgrade, and we have answered the few extra requirements that needed an answer. We've fixed everything, and we have a green report for the pre-upgrade, which means we are ready to perform the upgrade. So this is what we'll be doing in a few moments. It is also worth noting that we have quite some information here about the transaction summary. So the process will install some new packages, it will upgrade some packages, remove some other packages, and downgrade some packages. Why is that? Well, in fact, 7.9, RHEL 7.9 came out a little bit after RHEL 8.2 came out. So some of the open source software packages in my RHEL 7.9 machine are actually more recent than those found in the 8.2 content view. But that's not a problem because as soon as we complete the upgrade, we'll be able to move back to the latest RHEL 8 version, which is 8.3 plus patches at the moment. So let's be a little bit more patient. What we see here is a huge download. It is the biggest difference between the pre-upgrade and the actual upgrade. When you run LEAPP pre-upgrade, it checks a few things but doesn't download the RPMs that it will consume during the upgrade process. Since we're now running LEAPP upgrade, then it is actually going ahead and pulling the software packages from satellite, from within our content view. So as you see, as I've mentioned before, this VM has quite a few packages. It has a full development environment. It has a lot of custom packages, and this is why this process takes a little bit longer than on a more minimal system. So we're almost there. Let's see. This step is taking a few minutes. This is because we have lots of RPMs and lots of data which was downloaded from our satellite server, but it should resume shortly. One interesting item is looking at our RHEL 7 system while this is happening. We can see that our host, which never had the DNF command in the first place, is now executing DNF from the RHEL 8 repositories. So if we look for DNF, then we have a binary with a package. Well, actually, I made a mistake. Sorry about this. It appears to have come from the RHEL 7 repositories, but I suspect that it got installed only today. And oh no, it was installed in January, so that's probably when LEAPP was installed. So LEAPP is made of a few packages. You've got the LEAPP executable and also the LEAPP repository and the repository dependencies, and also the extra file that you've got to drop here, the PS, the, the PS event file and the repo map. So just a few moments, in just a few moments, the transaction should complete and we'll be able to reboot the host and start the actual upgrade. Back to our terminal. So, the LEAPP pre-flight part of the upgrade completed successfully. We see that the output looks quite similar to what LEAPP pre-upgrade reported, except that it reports adding a new boot entry. And of course, it's still green. This is something very important. If at some point it reports an error, then stop there and contact Red Hat support or see what you can do to fix the error. It is important to only proceed with the upgrade if everything is green and good to go. So we're ready, and the last message from LEAPP is that a reboot is required to continue. Please reboot your system. We're still on RHEL 7.9 and we're still subscribed to our composite content view. So we'll do just that. Let's reboot and check what happens. This is the console of the virtual machine that we are using. We will see the difference right after the initialization of the system. See, RHEL upgrade init rather fast. So this entry was added by LEAPP and it is created for the sole purpose of the upgrade. It will get eventually removed by the LEAPP process when the upgrade is complete. So we'll be taking a look at what's going on the console, because at this point in time we no longer have access remotely to the system. So the only output that we're seeing is on the console. It is also important to note that while Fedora Linux has had major upgrades for years, this feature is only coming to RHEL with RHEL 8 and above. So it is a very, very welcome addition to the reliability of Red Hat Enterprise Linux to be able to upgrade between major versions of RHEL. Now, and by the way, I'm not in sales, I'm a consultant, so the reason why I'm saying this is that I consume RHEL on my own systems. So being able to upgrade RHEL, even for me, with only 3 hypervisors is still a very nice thing to have, because I have pet hypervisors and they are running complex software and I have lots of custom RPMs. So being able to upgrade from RHEL 7 to RHEL 8 is actually a very welcome addition, even for me, even for people like me. So we are still looking at the console and we see that uh, the upgrade process properly detected that we had some software packages on RHEL 7 and it translated those specific software packages into application streams. So the purpose of this video is not to tell you about application streams, just know that it is a new feature in RHEL 8 where you can subscribe to a specific application stream and then get more frequent updates of the software in that application stream in order to serve you better. That's the general idea. We are now into the middle of the upgrade. This is the longest part. This is the part for my test system that takes about 1 hour. It's going to effectively perform close to 10,000 actions against the RPM database in the course of this part of the upgrade. So I'll be pausing the video very shortly in order to skip over that content because it is not worth watching in full. You will get the general idea anyway. Thank you. The upgrade completed successfully and we booted into the RHEL 8.2 kernel. Based on the new policies, as soon as we rebooted into RHEL 8, uh, the system decided to relabel everything. So this is gonna take some time depending on your I/O performance. In this VM we have a lot of storage, but we don't have that many files, so it should take a few moments and then another reboot and we'll be in RHEL 8. So the RHEL 8 kernel again, and we'll be able to log in shortly. So, system is up. We have a GUI running. It's a server with a GUI. It seems to be working fine. So let's SSH and see what we have. First thing we see is that we have a new kernel. This is the 4.18 kernel from RHEL 8, and it actually says 8.2 in uh, in the system, in the banner, in my custom banner. So LSP release -a. Oh yeah, this is RHEL 8.2, and uh, we're we could either go directly to 8.3 plus the latest, or we could choose to reinstall Infoscale at this point in time. So I've got my memory, my CPUs, and all of the disks are there, but I've got no Oracle running and no, of course, file system mounted. So instead of going to RHEL 8.3 immediately, what we're going to do at this point, we're going to reinstall Infoscale and move from there and restore the configuration. So my distribution of Infoscale is stored on a network share. So here we have the distribution of Infoscale 742 for Red Hat Linux, and this time, because we're running 8.2, then I'm going to go into the RHEL 8 subdirectory. I'm going to install the that distribution. So our host is still called RH7x64. This is the name. This is the host name. It didn't change. I'm probably gonna keep it this way, but I mean, I assure you that it is running RHEL 8 at the moment. And okay, so we are into the Infoscale installer. I'm reinstalling Veritas Infoscale Enterprise, and I don't want to configure Infoscale Enterprise after installation. I want to restore my configuration. Since Infoscale doesn't offer that functionality on Linux, I'll be doing it with the archive that I had created prior to the update. Oh yes, I agree, and there. So we are actually going to log onto the system from another shell. So What do we have here? We have the kernels. We see the Infoscale installation working in the background, so it's going to be clearer if I sort it. So we have two RHEL 7 kernels. It should allow us to boot back into one of these if we had any kind of issue, but I suspect it won't work because the glibc and everything got updated, and we have no RHEL 7 versions of the glibc. So, so we have three kernels, and Grubby is still here and points at the 8.2 kernel. So while this is happening and while Infoscale is getting reinstalled, we're going to do something. Remember, we had used the composite content view. We're still in the composite content view. And if I try to update, then I don't have any updates available because I've already patched my system. Okay, so this is a minor issue. I'm going to fix it with allow erasing. Yeah, this is a minor library. Alright, it's upgrading. It's upgrading something. Okay. Okay. So I don't have many updates available because I am in a composite content view that includes 8.2 content and 8.2 content only, with along, of course, with the RHEL 7 content. So at the moment, I'm going to take this time of reinstalling Infoscale to switch content views and go to my regular RHEL 8 servers content view, which will provide me with 8.3 content. So I'm just going to let this one finish. Here. So I I had a few updates available, but it's not much. I don't want to stay on 8.2. I want to move to 8.3 so that I can jump to 8.4 when it's released. Also, 8.4 is going to be the next target version of LEAPP. So when 8.4 is released, instead of going 8.2 then 8.4, you'll be able to jump from 7.9 to 8.4 directly. But at the time of this recording, LEAPP is only able to take you from 7.9 to 8.2 and not 8.2 EUS but plain 8.2. I tried it with the EUS repositories and it just didn't work. So you have to use the regular 8.2 repositories to make the jump to RHEL 8, and then you'll be able to move forward up the line as a regular host. So we're just going to switch content views. Subscription identity. Alright, so I'm going to subscribe to the RHEL 8 server content view, which is my regular content view for RHEL 8 systems. So we're going to switch, which will take a few moments. The installer of Infoscale is still going in the background. All right, now what do we have here? We have, so this VM is now in the RHEL 8 servers content view. It's the regular content view, and if I do a yum check update, then it should tell me that I've got quite a few updates available. Oh, look at all of those repositories. This is my regular content. Yeah, so I do have quite a few updates available, but we won't be applying those now. What we're gonna do is we're going to put Infoscale back into service as a first step. So I'm just waiting on the installer to finish so that I can restore this file here from the root directory. So it's going to overwrite some files, and it will help me greatly to because this will kickstart my Infoscale configuration. I will keep the same configuration, the same file. I will be able to start the database again, and this is gonna be something that I'm gonna benefit uh, right from right now. So I'm just waiting on the installer to finish. So tar tvzpf root vcs. So as soon as the installer finishes, I'm going to restore all that. So we are up. Post install tasks going on. We're almost down. How would you like to license the system? This is something that each one of us has to address separately, but for now I'll just enable keyless licensing and complete system licensing later. And I want, of course, the full enchilada, Veritas, Infoscale Enterprise. Oh yes, I want to help. I don't want to see the summary file, and what do I have here is, did it work? Oh, of course not. So let's restore the configuration. Configuration restored. I'm going to remove the install db file because this one will prevent Rally Manager from starting. And let's reboot. So again, we are still on 8.2. We are now subscribed to the 8.3, well, the current RHEL 8 content view for my systems. So it means that we'll be able to upgrade to 8.3, but at the moment, what I'm doing, I've restored Infoscale configuration, and we are starting to we are going to start Infoscale, Oracle, and everything and see how it goes. So let's see. This is the system that we just upgraded to 8.2. So, okay, it's starting some Veritas services. That's perfect. Here are the Veritas cluster mod pros that are coming up. And okay, system is up. Let's log in. So, let's see. Gap config. Nothing yet. That's expected. I only have a single RHEL 7 host here. So let's see. HA status. Oh, look at that. The cluster is starting, and this is my cluster service. So let's log in from another terminal. Yes. Right. So CVM is online. Cluster manager. That's a good sign. So we just upgraded to 8.2 and restored Infoscale after installing. Why do you have to do this? Is that the reason why you have to do this is the RPMs provided by Veritas for Infoscale are tied to the major version of RHEL that you're using. So if you look at those VRTS packages, you'll see that quite a few of them, those that include drivers, they they, they are different if you use RHEL 7 or RHEL 8. So those wouldn't have upgraded cleanly, which is why we uninstalled and reinstalled Infoscale. So look at that. Look at that. We've got our file systems, and also some ext4 file systems. So Docker isn't gonna run too well on RHEL 7. It was removed from the repository, so I'll have to use Podman instead. Is Podman installed? Yeah, Podman version. All right, Podman is installed. We do have our guest that's running. Virsh console 1. Hey. Ah. And we do have the databases that are up. So let's check them. Minus Oracle, array NV, that's perfect. So SQL plus. So I don't know much about Oracle, so please forgive me for doing uh, for not showing the proper stuff, but show parameters, show SGA. That's one of the few things that I know. So this is what my first database, and if I quit and do an array env and check the second database, I mean the agents, the Infoscale agents are up, everything is up and stable. So I'm assuming the Infoscale agents for Oracle know how to monitor this, so that I don't have to check it manually. SQL plus, so show SGA. It seems to work. So I'm in a kind of a funny situation. Oracle 11.2.0.4 is the first release that was of 11G release 2 that was validated on RHEL 7. So I'm now running a RHEL 8 with an ancient from 2015 Oracle database, and it seems to work fine so far. I mean, looks good. The databases are up. All of my processes are here. Okay, good. Okay, let's upgrade to 8.3 now. We'll shut the cluster and we'll just do a yum update. Oh, sorry, I mean a DNF update. I'm gonna have to update my mental circumvolutions. So, okay, DNF update. So let's see what we have. Oh, some of the RPMs that I had are not updatable, so I'm going to remove them right now. So I'm going to remove those. Oh, it's not installed. Uh, and did I have any kernel debug info packages? Wow, I have a few of them. Let's see. Oh, this one. Okay, so let's remove that one. And I'm going to remove some of the things that a DNF complained about. So I'm going to remove those RPMs. Oh, they're not installed. That's a good thing. And I'm going to clear the version log. It doesn't make any sense to version log on an older package. So let's try again. DNF update minus y. Hey, look at that. We are in for almost 2000 packages to update. Hopefully this is gonna go faster. So the system is still called RHEL 7x64. It's running Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8.2 and we're currently upgrading to 8.3 and we'll see we'll see if everything will come up after the update. Also, one thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to patch Infoscale because Infoscale on 8.3 requires an additional patch which I have on my NFS repository. In my ad hoc NFS repository, and I'm going to install that as soon as the transaction on the left window finishes. So it will prompt me for the system name, so let's get that started. So I'm gonna wait until this transaction here finishes and I'll proceed with the Infoscale patch and then I'm going to reboot the system. Sorry, I don't know if you got that, but so this host right now is currently behaving like an 8.2 system that is receiving the 8.3 updates and the Infoscale 8.3 updates. So we're if since the RPM transaction from 8.2 to 8.3 is working fine, I'm assuming that it's gonna be I mean, we are out of the woods by far, and I sure do hope that everything keeps flowing this way. So, as soon as this one here, this transaction will be finished, I'll be starting the the update the updates for Infoscale. Infoscale includes quite a few kernel modules, and usually when uh, a new minor version of RHEL comes out, Veritas has um, to put out updated modules. So this is what we're going to do now. We are going to apply uh, the 8.3 patch on top of what we have, and we'll reboot afterwards. Oops, that was a bugzilla. So let's wait until the transaction completes and we'll be able to launch the Infoscale update. Perfect. So the the YUM transaction completed successfully. So let's verify the release. Okay, we are we now have an 8.3 system, but we still haven't rebooted. So we're going to go for the Infoscale patch. So I want to do a patch full update, and this hopefully will be a little bit shorter. After that, we'll um, after that we'll perform the update and verify that everything is coming up properly. I want to stop the Infoscale processes now. They are already stopped because I stopped the cluster. Infoscale is finishing up, so we'll be able to take a look and we'll be able to reboot shortly. So one side effect of applying the Infoscale updates through by using their installer is that at the end of the patch it's going to start the services, and we don't want that because we haven't rebooted. So perhaps next time I do this I'll reboot first with VCS disabled and patch later, but it shouldn't break anything. And we can, in the other terminal, we shall be able to see Infoscale coming up. I'm going to, well, we're going to have to wait. So, would you like to send the information? Yes, of course. Checking online updates, no updates. We're still on 742 because I still haven't downloaded 743, but that's just me. I don't want to see the summary file. So let's see what we have. We have an 8.3 host that's still running the 8.2 kernel, and we have everything that came up. So let's, yeah, everything came up. So let's stop the cluster and reboot. While we wait for the system to reboot, I'm going to say that this procedure probably breaks a few barriers. There we are going to um, different areas where typically the third-party vendor, I'm thinking Oracle 11G R2 on RHEL 8, uh, typically the independent software vendor would probably be a little bit afraid of this kind of procedure. This procedure that I demoed here is only to give you an idea of how LEAPP works, how well it works, even if you have Oracle and Infoscale. And I will say that it's important that you reach out to your Dell contact if you don't feel confident in doing this by yourself. But at any means, by all means, if you decide to do this kind of procedure by yourself, there you have the proof that it can be done It can be done not within days, but within hours. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions and request help from Red Hat services if you don't feel comfortable doing this kind of upgrade. So we are now into the final reboot and we're waiting for 8.3 to come up, and hopefully everything will be fine and we'll be able to continue working from there. I hope you enjoyed this demo, and I will leave my email in the comments for you to reach out if you have any kind of need. Thank you. System is coming up. At some point we'll be able to log in. Right, we can already log in, so let's look at the kernels. So we still have the old 7.9 kernel. We still have the 8.2 kernel that allowed us to upgrade from RHEL 7.9. And we are now running the 8.3 kernel. And we should have Infoscale come up shortly. Oh, it's already starting. So let's see what we have. I'm gonna pick my older desktop environment because I'm that kind of guy. Yep, even the desktop environment from RHEL 7 came up. So what do we have here? Okay, cluster is coming up. Most of the ports of cluster of the cluster file system cluster volume manager are coming up. Here we see that the IPs for Oracle are also coming up. The VIPs, they're here, 232 and 231. And the file systems are coming up and the listeners are started. Everything came up since we updated to from RHEL 7.9 to 8.3. And looking at the Oracle environment again, right, Scale Plus, super. This concludes our demo. I hope you enjoyed performing this upgrade with me, and I wish you the best of luck. As you can see, LEAPP is a tremendous piece of technology that's supposed to make our life easier and that helps for RHEL major updates, some upgrades, something we've been waiting on for years. I hope you enjoyed this demo. Please like and share if you had fun. Thank you very much.